with that, let me introduce our speaker. I've been in this industry for way, way too long. I was fortunate enough to get my start at Transworld way back in the early days, and was very got to see people that were the leaders in our industry and got to shape where we are today. And this speaker is one of the exceptions to them all. He has kind of paved his own path, as you guys are all well aware of it. He did some amazing things with a previous brand that he'll talk about, and what he's done with Hurley, and then also his partnership with Nike. He's truly one of the unique voices in youth culture and youth marketing, not only just in action sports, but in music and everything across the board. We had the privilege of having him speak at our last event, Agenda Emerge, to 800 plus up and coming brand builders, and Ryan Hurley was the moderator of it all. He did a great job with that. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Bob Hurley.
Wow, huge privilege to be here, and I'd like to thank the Boathouse and Clay and Mark for having us. I can't believe you guys came out. It's really humbling, honestly, and I was just talking with Paul Schmidt and PT, two of my legends of all time, and what a real privilege. So, Mark said, hey, would you mind coming by and just sharing a few thoughts? And, I'm not really a great storyteller, but if you guys are cool, I'll tell a little story of my business career. And then maybe you could ask some questions at the end, because I'll probably leave a lot of stuff out. I'll probably skip over some stuff, but it's been an incredible journey, and I've been totally blessed in so many ways. So I'll just kind of start out. In 1978, I was just a surf kid in Huntington Beach, and I loved surfing more than anything. I actually thought it was the center of the universe. I didn't know there was waves in San Diego or Santa Barbara. I was like, really? There are? And the reason is there's this thing there called the pier, and everyone used to go out there and critique everybody surfing or take pictures, which 3 weeks later we would see them because they were on something called film, which some of you may remember. And it was really, really an exciting town to grow up in. I tried to be a surfer. I ended up being one of the guys simply by spending time there, but I couldn't rise to the top. They say cream rises to the top, and in sports, I just wasn't there. I was near the bottom, but that was okay because I got really lucky, and I met a guy at Windansea Surfboards named Guy Gazzardo. It was a rainy day at the beach. Surf was 10 foot, but the wind was south. I had nothing to do for 3 hours, and I sat in his surf shop and tortured him till he hired me. And so I got to work there for free for a while. Then I started getting paid, and then I learned how to make surfboards. And when I made surfboards, I said, I want to make your boards. He said, I can't afford to have you make the boards. I said, no, I'll do them for free. He goes, no, I can't afford to because you're going to ruin them, and I just can't afford that. I was like, oh. So I actually, yeah, all right, no worries, yeah. So I need to go louder or just keep doing what I'm doing? All right, a little closer. I'm not used to mics. So I learned how to make surfboards, and I was really diligent at it. I was not good at it. I was born with a couple skills, which doesn't matter now, but surfing, skating, and shaping boards were not any of my skills. But I loved it so much, I just learned the hard way, And at my time in Huntington Beach, there was very famous surfboard shapers, so many of them. They'd come from around the world. Reno Avalera from Hawaii, Dick Brewer, Chris Hawk, Sam Hawk, Carl Hayward, all these crazy, crazy good shapers. I was the guy behind the guy. So those guys were so famous, and there were so many parties, they would forget to do their work sometime. And I was the guy that did it. It's called ghost shaping. You may have heard of ghost authors. I was a ghost shaper. So by not being good at shaping, it turned into a giant advantage because there was some surfers that were really good surfers, and one of them's here tonight, Peter Townend, former world champion, that said, hey, Hurls. He said, look, I've got a big heat coming up. I don't want Shane Horan to win the world title. I'm going to be surfing in Hawaii, and I want you to make me some boards. And I said, wow, really? You're going to let me make boards? And because I knew nothing except a copy, I thought he was the man. So he taught me about tail rocker in surfboards, which makes the boards go better turns and all this stuff. So making boards for Peter gave me some sort of a status. And then I met a guy named Rabbit Bartholomew, who was also a world champion, Australian. And I met him in the shore break in Huntington Beach. And you guys might not know this about Huntington, but it was thought of, now it is on the sidewalk, but in the water it was thought of as a very tough place to crack into. If you just showed up unannounced and you surfed reasonably, you would probably get punched. At the very least, you would get sent to the beach because you just weren't allowed. There was a hierarchy and a pecking order, and you had to pay your dues. You had to work your way closer to the pier. And I had lots of friends that gave other people headbutts and such things. So one day I lost my surfboard. There was no leashes at the time. And in the shore break, I met this guy, Rabbit. And I said, "Oh my God, you're Rabbit Bartholomew." And he said, "Yeah, mate, good to meet you." And I said, "Well, we heard you were in town," whoever we was, and we decided that you could come surf with us. And how cool of us, right? I mean, we're so cool. And we are really interested in protecting our good old boy network, status, hierarchy. And he said the most crazy thing to me that just floored me. He said, "Oh, mate, that is so kind of you, but what I'd like to do is hang in here with the kids because that's really where I draw my inspiration from." And I was like, that's confusing to me. Like, we're all trying to be cool. Like, why don't you come be cool with us? So that was kind of a big life lesson. What happened was when Rabbit asked me to make him some boards, and he was transitioning in his career, there was a time period where single fins went to twin fins. California music shifted to punk rock. How's that doing? It's all right? Thank you very much. Yeah, bad sound is tough, and when I'm causing it, it's tougher, so sorry, you guys. Yeah, but anyways, there was a punk rock movement, and there was twin fins and airbrushes and vertical surfing versus horizontal surfing. Some friends of mine that were very good surfers in Huntington even dyed their hair black in 1979. People thought they were gonna die or something, and they were in a band called TSOL, and they made music about dead people, and we were scared. But these were just nice, happy kids that happened to surf great. And that was a big eye-opener for me, too. Watching an entire culture turn on their own just because they look different. I was like, that's kind of weird. I love these guys. What's everybody talking about? So anyways, Rabbit let me make him some surfboards. And we copied a board off a guy named Tom Curran, who was an up-and-coming 15-year-old surfer. And he had the best twin fin on the planet. It was shaped by Al Merrick. And we copied that board right over here in Costa Mesa, and it was really, really light because we had a friend named Mike Hoare in Huntington that could make boards 25% lighter than other people. And for those of you that don't surf a lot, when you have a really, really light surfboard, it's really quick and electric, and more than the actual performance, it does something to your brain where you start going, wee, 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 I love surfing. And everything gets amazing, and you put on your top performances. So he won a few events on that. And then people started saying, "Why don't you start your own label?" Because I was Ghost Shaper guy, remember? And I said, "What do you mean? I can't start my own label." So I had a friend with a surf shop in Huntington called Huntington Surf and Sport. His name was Aaron Pye. And he said, "Look, I want you to start a label, and I want to buy 8 surfboards from you. Everybody in town's riding them. We'll just put a label on it, and that'll be good for my store and you." I said, "Aaron, I got no money. I don't have a logo. I don't have materials, and I can't finance the operation." And he said, "How much are boards?" And I didn't even know because I didn't sell boards. I said, "I don't know. I know McCoy's sell for like $215 wholesale. I know Stussy's are about $240. Those are the only 2 I could think of really that wholesaled boards." He said, "How about $300 a board? I'll write you a check right now, $2,400. And I was blown away. I walked out of there with a check for $2,400. I went to the bank. I went to my friend Chuck Schmidt's house. We designed a logo. We copied a band named Trigger, and they were a hair band, and it was awesome. And then I had this other logo called IPD, and I had seen it on a truck, a logo called PIL. And I thought, you know what? A trucking company called PIL, well, IPD is pretty cool, International Pro Designs. So I copied this logo, not even knowing it was the Sex Pistols. And it was pretty cool. Anyways, we made boards, we sold boards. We had a little surf shop over here on 17th Street. If you guys know where Cordell's old shop would be, that was it, 755 West 17th, Unit C right there. wholesale a lot of boards. Sean Stussy and I were always the most in-demand guys. We'd take 6 months to make a board. We were somewhat elitist shapers. You couldn't really get one unless you knew someone. And it was pretty fun times. But I heard about a brand called Billabong, and I wanted to import it from Australia. I really, really wanted the shorts because all I had was really short Quicksilver shorts. They were called Echo Beach. And I hated short shorts. I didn't like the way my legs looked, but I guess girls like that sometimes. My wife never liked it, but I guess they do. Anyways, Billabong had long shorts, super bright colors, absolutely punk rock, absolutely irreverent, did not care anything about the market. And I said, you know, I need some of that. I really want that. I met a guy named Jim Banks, stayed at my house, got me some shorts. Some friends from Huntington went over, brought a suitcase full back. I sold them all right away. And I kept writing letters to Australia to this guy, Gordon, that started Billabong. Quite a sharp guy. And he never answered me. He turned up in that shop one day, and my friend Helen that worked there came back and said, Bob, there's an Aussie guy to see you. And I said, what's he look like? And she told me. And he had 3 kids with him. And they were going to Disneyland. I'm like, well, what does he want? I'm like a mountain of snow. He didn't identify himself because when you shape boards, you have this snow all over you called foam dust. So I went out there and I said, hey, he said, hey, I'm Gordon from Billabong. All those letters you've been writing, you know, I've been checking around. Like, you seem like an okay guy. Would you like to buy the shorts? And I said, absolutely. What would the deal be? How much are they? And he said, well, I have 3,000 pair to sell you, and they're $9 each. And I said, $27,000, right? He said, yep. We didn't even talk about an exchange rate. Now that I think about it, I don't think I knew what that was. I never thought of that till this moment. Was there an exchange rate? Did he jip me or did I jip him? I'm thinking he jipped me for sure. He's pretty sharp. So, for sure, he was good at that stuff. Yeah, and then, and so I went home and told Shelly, my wife, guess what? We're gonna bring Billabong into the United States. And she said, okay, cool. What's the deal? And I said, $27,000. And she started laughing. She's like, we don't have any money. And I said, oh, that's the easy part. We could do that. And literally, my surf shop in the showroom was about as big as this stage. So 3,000 shorts are coming. We have no money. All right, how are we going to do this? So I put my little pea brain to work, and I heard about something called a general partnership. And apparently, when you're a general partner, you don't always have to fund the business. You can get other partners that fund the business while you have control over it. So I came up with some weird value. I don't even remember how, but I decided that for 28% of the company, I would sell that for $45,000. And if you had $5,000, you could buy a 4% share. Now, those aren't round numbers, and it's crazy to me that I came up with that, but I don't know, it seemed to work out. I tried to sell it to Huntington. I tried to sell part to Huntington Surf and Sport. Aaron, EJ at Laguna, tried to sell to him. Paul Houston-Stam. I went to all the Surf and Sports thinking this is a no-brainer. They're going to feel like they own this brand. They all went, sorry, Bob. You got like 3 pairs of trunks and 4 T-shirts. I'm not giving you $5,000. And so, of course, friends and family were the next people I begged. They all gave me money. My next-door neighbor, Tom Fletcher, over there on Federal Street, gave me $15,000. He was a biologist. He was rich at the time. He was making $45,000 a year, and I couldn't believe it. We were making $10,000 a year making surfboards, so that shows you the magnitude of his wealth. Anyways, we got Billabong in here. There was a waiting list literally for, I'm going to say, the first 3 years. The first year we did 70,000 in sales. Next year 300. Next year 800,000. And it turned into a business that I never wanted to run, ever, because shaping surfboards is really glamorous. And I like the ego part of it, you know. And even, you know, all joking aside, but it's never really a joke, is it? All joking aside, I really like the idea of talking to you. You're telling me what you want in your surfboard and translating that to my hands using the skills I know to give you what you want and then giving it to you and then watching you do what you do and say yes or no. I really like that. It's really good instant feedback. Anyways, I ended up liking the same thing with clothing, exactly the same things, the curve, the balance, the colors, the satisfaction. And again, the thing I hated always was the money. If you were coming to pick up your surfboard, I'd much rather you leave the money in an envelope or give it to Helen at my front desk, because we all need money, and it's a good thing to have, but we try not to have that be our primary motive, you know, because we like to do things for love if we have the chance. Everybody doesn't have that chance, but Billabong turned into an incredibly successful business.
You guys might not know this because you're all so young. At Billabong, we did some radical things, really, really unheard of. We just did whatever we felt like. And it was so wonderful because it was a great time in the surf industry that allowed you that. For example, we had a contest in Hawaii when all contests left Hawaii. There was something called the IPS, and it kind of just said, you know, Hawaii's too hard to deal with. Have you guys ever dealt with the bad side of Hawaii? It can be really tough. The good side is wonderful, and that's what we always experience now, but all pro surfing left Hawaii, if you can believe that. So Gordon said, let's do a contest in Hawaii. And we did a contest in Hawaii. It was the only pro contest in Hawaii for 1 year. The very next year, because of the success of that, there was 23. And now it's overrun. You can't get a permit, you can't do anything. And I'm kind of proud of that. It was a big risk we took. We did something else called the Billabong Challenge. When pro surfing was starting to feel irrelevant, we took the 8 best surfers in the world and we took them to Western Australia and we filmed it. We made a movie out of it. We started the first pro junior for money with a $20,000 first prize way back when. It was such exciting times. One thing I was beginning not to enjoy, the surf industry, I was beginning not to enjoy that. And it wasn't the surf industry per se, it was what we had become. We had become a bunch of people that were making a lot of money, and we were doing things only for money and not for consumers, and it was just really kind of gross. The grossest part was, and I was a part of this, so I'm not blaming anyone else except all of us, the exclusive nature of the surf industry. In other words, we're cool, you're not. Do you surf? Well, then I guess you're not cool. Unless you buy our really bad stuff that is not sourced properly or designed correctly, then you could be cool. And it just didn't make any sense. So early 90s, we were very involved with some musical acts up in Los Angeles, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Beastie Boys, Mary's Danish, Thelonious Monster, and so on. All super good friends, all surfers, by the way. And they would always come to Billabong over there on 19th and Placentia to get free gear, the ultimate free gear thing. And they would inevitably leave without any merchandise, and it hurt my feelings a lot. And finally I asked one of the guys, it might have been Mike D from the Beastie Boys, like, how come you, why didn't you get anything? He's like, man, I surf, but I don't want to look like a surfer. You know, I don't put the board on the car with the racks. I'm not trying to like broadcast that I surf. And I was like, me neither. And he's like, well, your stuff looks like surf stuff. And I thought, well, yeah, Sean Stussy actually made quite a good living out of making normal clothes, so why couldn't we do that too? And why do we have to be all about only a surfer knows the feeling? We're comfortable, we surf, I live surfing. I've surfed Huntington Pier 5 times a day, including all night when I used to live there. I surf, I'm not insecure about it. We don't have to broadcast it, we're surfers, we're cool, you're not. So he wanted to invite people in, which was a very, very revolutionary idea in 1999. In 1999, as you all know, there was a new millennium. There was fear around the world about something called Y2K. I don't know if any of you remember that, but it was a big deal. There was also, I don't know if you guys have heard of MTV. Have you guys, anyone heard of that? One person has heard of that. That's cool. Well, it was as powerful as Facebook or Google, really. It was the most powerful thing on the planet, and we had some very good friends that were musicians, a band called Blink-182. Now, when we started Hurley, we had to make sure we didn't copy Billabong. A, for legal reasons, B, for ethical reasons, and C, what a lame thing to do, copy other people. So we had to come up with a brand idea, and we decided Hurley would be about innovation, it would be about fashion, we would put rhinestones on men's clothing. Yes, I know, we did it. We would use ripped seams and hems. We would put zippers where they didn't belong. We would have secret hidden pockets, which apparently Customs thought was for drugs, but it wasn't. It was just so we could sell more stuff. Yeah, so we had this very, very differentiated brand, and a big part of it was color, because in 1996 through 99, and Paul Schmidt will know this as well as anyone, all the cool companies had heather gray and navy blue t-shirts with very small logos right here. Drawers, Dubs, DC, all the companies I loved, you know, were like really cool, small, don't broadcast your logo. And the surf companies were trying to follow all the skate companies and the snowboard companies. So we decided with Hurley, you know what? these kids we know, this new age of musicians and snowboarders that we love, and some of the surfers, but not very many. Surfers are a little regressive at times. Want something different. So these guys from Blink, they really wanted bright t-shirts. They wanted fluorescent green, fluorescent yellow, fluorescent blue, fluorescent red. They wanted giant logos. We had like 40 logos on the front of a t-shirt, one's on the sleeve, complete opposite of the marketplace. We were known for a color called, it was Kelly green, but the retailers and everyone that copied us started calling it Hurley green. It was crazy. Some ill-intended competitors of ours used to call us the Hilton brand or Hilfiger Surf, you know. They would say all these snide remarks. And I learned a pretty big lesson when we launched the Hurley brand, is that we aren't all in it together. We want to be, but when we're on the field, we compete hard and we try to sabotage each other. So that was a little bit of an eye-opener for me on the surf industry, which is quite interesting, which is not to be saddening at all, just understanding you are responsible for your own self. When you lose money or when you do a bad thing, there's not one other company in here that will help you. So just always be mindful of that. You're on your own. Anyways, MTV, Blink 182, $99.99, if you can believe that. So we were launching in 99. 999 is the emergency number in London, just like 911 here. We also love a band called 999. But we use 999, and then all of a sudden, our friends are going to be on MTV Music Awards, nominated for Song of the Year, Video of the Year, and Album of the Year on $99.99. And they always wore our logo on our shirts, and including the drummer Travis. And so they called us from the studio. I think it was 2 o'clock their time, and they were going to go on at 5 o'clock or something. And they said, hey, we got a problem. You know how MTV blurs out all those logos? We're like, yeah. I was sitting there with Paul Gomez. He's like, get in here. We're going to have a speakerphone call. I'm like, we have speakerphone? Awesome. How's it work? Oh, wow. I used to just leave the receiver off and talk like that. But anyways, they said, hey, MTV doesn't want us to wear the logo. So what they did was they taped over all our logos with like green tape on the green shirt, red tape on the red shirt. And we're like, yeah, cool, yeah, all right, whatever. We never did it for money. You know, we just loved the guys from Blink. We sent them on their first European tour. We didn't pay them or anything. We just helped them when we could. And we're like, and they're like, well, we're going to rip the tape off. And I was like, time out. You will never work again. Bands come and go. There's going to be another Blink tomorrow. You burn these guys, you're done. You seriously will never work again. Don't piss them off. And they're like, yeah, well, screw those guys. We're doing it. I'm like, seriously, don't. I even called the manager separately when the band hung up. I'm like, Rick, you're the manager. Like, you guys are going to go broke. It's all fun and games today. Ha, ha, ha. We do this at work all the time. It seems super funny when you talk about it, and you do it. You're like, that was so lame. So they did it, and we sold a gazillion T-shirts. It was crazy. When we launched the Hurley brand in 99, I had 150 people over there in Costa Mesa that we told we weren't doing Billabong anymore. We gave Billabong back. And it's hard to know, like, you start in a company. Like, yeah, you have infrastructure, but how can you afford that infrastructure? I think our overhead was $13 million a year. And so I had friends saying, well, you're definitely not going to sell more than $5 million. You need a really tiny line, maybe just a couple products. And I would take all this advice in, and I would think about it. And I had numerous meetings with lots of people I respect. And I finally came down to this. You know what? I'm going to go out swinging. I'm not going to go out like a wuss. So we had 150 people. We didn't want to lay one of them off. We decided that wasn't an option. We decided we were going to act like a real company from day one. We decided we're just going for it. And you know what? If we lose everything, that's fine. We didn't really have anything anyways. You guys probably know when you're running a company, there's never any cash to grab. So Billabong was always very successful. I think some years near the end we were making like $6 million a year profit, paying $6 million a year royalties. That's $12 million liquid dollars. Who does that? Certainly not even giant companies nowadays. But we were living pretty good, but we never had any cash. People would always say, "Why are you driving that truck?" I'm like, "Why do you think? I don't have any money." But the cool thing is when we took this risk, we went from a pretty big company to a small company. So those of you with businesses will understand this. The cash flow all of a sudden got really good. Like, wait, there's money now? This is awesome. You can be a smaller company, do less business, and actually have cash. That's cool. So year one, we did, like I said, our overhead was 13. So we planned, that was our business plan, 13, just so we could break even. We didn't want to get greedy. Well, because of Blink-182 and the Black Eyed Peas, that both played our opening party, we had 10,000 people come to a venue this big. It was literally a riot outside. We did great, man. We did 28 million in year one, and I think half of it was t-shirts. It was just a phenomenon. Hard to replicate, you know. Nothing we did could really be, I couldn't replicate it again. It was just timing, you know, lucky timing. Change of a millennium. Where else do you get that chance? A whole new generation that didn't want the old and wanted the new. New music. I mean, it was crazy. So anyways, year two, we did 45 million, made $5 million. Year three, 75 million, made $7 million. Got our little team together and said, hey guys, here's my 10-year plan for $1 billion. Never trying hard to sell anything, mind you. These like 28, 45, that was like a pull. That was not us pushing anything. We did exactly what we wanted. In fact, year two, we told PacSun to take a hike. Year one, they bought $8 million worth of t-shirts from us. And year two, we're like, you're just gonna buy our t-shirts and put them in the window? You're out. It was so fun. And then we did 45 million that year, you know. So it was never like we had to compromise what we were doing. But my CFO said at one point, he's like, okay, if we're gonna grow that fast, we're already starting to need cash. You're gonna have to borrow a lot of money, sign the bottom line. You're gonna owe everything you've ever made in your whole life, which wasn't much, honestly, but 2 seasons can put you out of business in this business, 2 bad ones. 1, you're just limping. 2, you're wounded, as we've seen recently, but it happens, you know, no one's immune from it. And so I said, oh, I can't sign that kind of credit line again. He said, it's gonna be $100 million if we're gonna keep growing. I'm like, no way, I will never do that. I'll like start like getting cans out of the trash before I'm gonna do that. So we started going, okay, how could we get money? We could go public. Yeah, people do that. It's really hard. And some people have argued that the demise of whatever used to be the surf industry is due to being a public company. You know, if you're not over about $5 billion, please don't go public. You'll hate it. You'll absolutely hate it. It crushes your business. So I didn't want to do that. I would have got fired in about a minute because you got to have a smart CEO. I like when I don't know if you guys, I bet you guys travel a bit. Like when you go to the airport and you go to like the Polo shop and it looks like Polo, or you go to Louis Vuitton and it looks like Louis Vuitton. Well, I sat in meetings for years at Billabong with regions from around the globe. And you know, the French people want long pink shirts and the Japanese people want really short pants, but they want them super tight with a really low waist, like that thing Sean Neff always wears. And then, everyone wants everything, right? So the brand ends up being all like, oh my God, we want revenue in the region. We got to listen to these people, but it never looks like the brand. So we never wanted to do that. We didn't want to be like the companies that we used to be. And so we sought out partners. Nike, number one, because I always loved Nike. You know, my son Ryan used to be in skate ads for Hurley wearing Nike shoes. We always loved Nike, best shoes on the planet. We liked the attitude. Number 2 was Polo. I love Polo. I love Ralph Lauren. Not edgy enough for me, but great quality. The brand stands for something. You know what it is. You're never surprised. 60% of the business is on one product. Smart guy. All the other stuff's just for looks. Super smart. So I could say, well, we could be a teenage version of that. I'm just as proud of surfing, actually more than Polo. So why not? Levi's, obviously, Levi's is amazing, right? And then Gucci, because I love Tom Ford. I think he's the best designer on the planet, except for Ryan. And Andrew, and DJ. By the way, the DJ, his name's DJ, and I work with him every day. I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm DJing. It's pretty good music, huh? Yeah, so all those companies said no. We were 75 million, way too small to buy. The paperwork I got from the deal was like 2 books that are like this thick. I'm thinking the legal fees had to be, I don't know, man. The legal fees had to be 25 million bucks on the Nike side. On our side, it was pretty much, but not even close to that. So hard to buy a small company. Hard when Nike was 9 billion at the time to buy Hurley, 75 million. Geez, what would we do with that? We don't even know. It's like, whoops, space shuttle meets Cessna. How do you, wait, we got a manual. Oh yeah, but oh God, that takes a key. This one doesn't even have a key. Oh geez. So anyways, they said no, all of them, and then this guy Tom Clark, he's a genius, and he's become a really good friend of mine. He was running Nike from 900 million. The one year they lost money, he took it over, running it as president and CEO, and then he left at 10 billion, very profitable, with a shiny new campus, with something called HR with an org chart, which they didn't have, all this stuff, right? He systematized Nike, and he made it amazing, and he let Phil Knight do the sports marketing. So this guy had been retired for a year. He called me up, and he's like, hey, yeah, want to come meet you? And I didn't know who he was. And I'm like, oh, your company already declined. And he's like, no, I just want to come meet you. It's not like, oh, I'm not talking business or anything. I'm like, okay. So he comes, he hangs out. I'm like, God, I love this guy. He can predict about 10 minutes before I say it what I'm going to say. And I can figure out what he's saying about 10 minutes after he says it. So it's just it's a beautiful match, you know? The guy is so smart. And he's kind. And here's what I like about really smart people. I don't know, you guys see if you notice this, because I think I notice it, but it could be wrong. I think the smarter they are, the faster they change their mind when given new information. And then I think people that are stubborn aren't high on the IQ. You know, they got an idea and they're going for it. All right? So anyways, Tom and I became pretty good friends, and I took him on some retail tours, not even knowing. I went down to HSS one day where we had a really good Hurley section, and I'm like, this is going to be cool. Walk in there, I'm like, hey, manager guy, yesterday was there a Hurley section in here? He's like, yeah. I go, where'd it go? He goes, you know that guy that works for you, Paul Gomez? And I'm like, yeah, Paul's a good friend of mine. Why? He goes, yeah, well, he walked down the main street yesterday, and our manager said hi, and he didn't even say hi back. So we took the section out. I'm like, what? Tom was laughing his butt off. He thought, he had tears. He's like, oh, the best thing I've ever seen. When I was a boss at Nike, everywhere I'd go, it was fake. It was like the Truman Show. Boss is coming to town. Let's fix everything up. He's like, I love that. Anyways, we became pretty good friends, you know, and he said after about 4 months, hey, Bob, Nike does not want to buy a company. We kind of looked at Quicksilver before, and it doesn't make sense for us. He goes, up in Beaverton, we, not me, I've been out of there for a year, but we tend to think the world revolves around this thing called a swoosh. You know, and I know, there's other people out there. But sometimes in Oregon, they don't know that. Right now is not a good time at Nike for this, but in 3 years, he was on the board too. He goes, 3 years, I'll take this thing to the board, we'll do it. And I said, Tom, that is awesome. I love you, man, and this has been super fun, but I am moving on. And if we're still around in 3 years, I'd love to talk to you because you're fun to work with. But I don't think so. And like I said, right when I was like this, he's like, all right, time out. Retract the last statement. You are going to come meet Phil Knight. I said, okay. He goes, when can you do it? I go, when are you flying back? He's like, tonight? And I said, well, I can't go tonight, but I could go tomorrow. So a couple of us went up there, met Phil Knight, had a really fun meeting. There's a big boardroom, and Mark Parker, the president, and Charlie Denson, the other president, Don Blair, the CFO, all these people around this table. Tom walks in. There's an empty chair here for my homie, Phil. Phil hadn't walked in yet. I was sitting right there. And I was so excited to see how Tom would present this in a big corporate setting up at Oregon and Nike campus, and how real business is done. And gosh, come to find out, it's done kind of how like we all do it. But right when Phil sat down, Tom said, Bob, tell Phil what's going on. And I'm like, me? Are you serious? Like right in front of everybody, I'm like, Tom, I thought you were going to do the presentation. Like bickering, you know. And right when I said that, I was like, okay, that was stupid. And then Tom goes, no, go ahead. It's your company. I've kept Phil in the loop on what's going on. And obviously Mark's been in the meetings. And so I said, all right, well, Phil, we got a thing, and it's like music, like, and Huntington surf thing and board, like it was real bad. I'm probably under-exaggerating. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, you seem kind of nervous. And I said, yeah, sorry, Tom, whatever. And then he said, do you have a PowerPoint? I said, I don't know what that is. Do I, Tom? And he started laughing, and he's like, oh, this is going to be the best meeting of my day. I'm sick of those things. And then he said, why did you make good surfboards? And I said, I really never said they were good. That's not my natural skill, but I love making surfboards. And he said, come on, guy. Just try to compliment your boards. Whatever it is, you pick. And I said, well, they're lighter, They were faster and they were more flexible. You could win contests on them, but they would break. Made them for a couple world champions. They seemed to do okay on them, but they wouldn't last, and that was probably the primary skill set we had. And I could see he was intrigued by that because I didn't really know it then, but that's the same reason he made shoes. I mean, I guess I knew it, but I forgot, just for the athlete, lighter, faster, more flexible. It was kind of that simple. So that was September 10th, 2001, and I bet you guys remember September 11th, 2001, right? I was blown away. Excuse me. So on September 12th, Tom Clark called me at 8:15 in the morning and said, Bob, can you believe what happened? And we're both kind of shook up, and we couldn't believe it, and we talked for a few minutes, and then he said, so that was a good visit, huh? And I said, oh, yeah, it was super fun. Thank you. I really enjoyed that. It's like a career highlight. And he goes, well, are we going to do a deal? And I'm like, you mean like today? And he goes, well, we won't sign it today, but if you want to do a deal, I want to do a deal. We can work out the terms. And I'm like, yeah, cool. He goes, okay, why don't you come up here pretty soon, and just you and I will sit down in a coffee shop. We'll hammer out the terms of the deal, because we had other really boring, weird meetings before Nike said no about, with accountants and lawyers. They aren't all weird, but the meetings are weird. And yeah, I love my accountants and lawyers, by the way. But Tom said, how about me and you just do it? It'd be more fun that way. And I'm like, killer, why not? So there's this big Nike guy. He's like, meet me at this coffee shop. Met him there at like 6:30 in the morning. He's got a napkin out. He's always writing on a napkin. And he's like, hey, I got a question for you. Like, when we make this deal, what are you going to do with the money? I go, I don't know. He's like, well, you're going to buy an island, right? I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy an island. He's like, everybody buys an island. It's trending right now. I'm like, no, I'm definitely not going to buy an island. He's like, well, you don't want to work, do you? I go, yeah, I want to work. I'm doing this so I can keep working. Like, I love my job. It's not really a job. And then he's like, okay. He's like, well, what will you do with it? I said, well, I'll probably pay off my mom's house. And I can't think of anything else. I don't need a car or anything. So, yeah, probably that. And then so he goes, okay, well, we talked about this much money. That's fine, whatever. That's not much to Nike. Pretty good value for you. I go, yeah, pretty good. We swung hard, We set a record at the time, but by nowadays standards, it's not that big. He goes, I'm kind of thinking stock, cash, earnout. What are you thinking? And I said, I'm kind of thinking cash, stock, earnout. And he's like, okay. So that's how he made the deal. It was pretty amazing. Like, it seems like I'm lying to you right now, but I promise I'm not. I might be a little wrong, but I'm not lying. So anyways, we partnered with Nike. We didn't know what the heck we were doing. Nike had no idea how to help Hurley at all. One thing I found out, because I thought, well, we made the deal. Now Nike's going to pay for everything. This is going to be awesome. And so we got a really good guy from Nike that used to run Nike Europe, and he came to Hurley, and it was like, whoa, we got the Nike guy. He's going to fix everything. This is amazing. And so we set up an office in Europe, and I said, oh, cool. Do we have when are we going to start doing business? Well, we don't need to worry about that right now. I'm like, okay. And then he comes in, and he goes, we got another office too. I'm like, well, why do we have two? In Barcelona. Like, what? Why? He's like, Barcelona's really good. I'm like, no, not Barcelona. Why do we have two offices? We don't even have any business. He's like, no. We got to build an infrastructure first. And I was like, wow, Nike's gnarly. Nike just spends money on stuff like that. And he's like, we're hiring this guy. We're hiring that guy. We're hiring this girl and this person from Nike. And we're all joining up. And like one day I was like, hey, we have 90 people over there. Is that good? I mean, I guess if they're good, it's good, right? We're going to make money? He's like, oh, yeah, this is going to be amazing. Well, we still didn't have a product line. So 90 people for 9 months, 2 office, no sample line. We're just getting ready to work. We never did that with our business. We always made the product and made some money first before we hired. And we always said, if you're really good, you come work here. Then you'll get paid later. So we I mean, if you think you're good, I'm not going to pay you up front. I mean, that's ridiculous. If you're not good, you're not going to make any money. So I probably learned that from Peter. He's a very competitive guy. So one day, not knowing how to be part of Nike, and I kept asking Tom, is this cool? Is this normal? He's like, yeah, man, we got to do business in Europe. I'm like, okay. So one day I asked my CFO, hey, how's February looking? This is probably like on January 24th. He goes, oh, February's looking good. Probably going to make, 2.8 million. And I'm like, not bad for a month of February, huh? This whole Nike thing's going amazing. And then he walked in my office about a week later, white as a ghost. He goes, I got that wrong. We're actually going to lose 2.4 million. And I said, Mike, you're like super good at your job. I've never seen anything like this happen. What is going on? How's that even possible? He said, oh, Nike's charging us for that whole Europe thing. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, that comes out of our budget. And we were like, oh my God. And then I called up Tom. I'm like, hey, Tom, did you know? And he's like, well, not really, but we've never really done this before, so I guess we just all kind of oopsed, you know. So learning how to do that. Well, you would think, you know, when we first met folks from Nike, you would think there's like superhumans with fail-proof ideas. It's all about just humans working together, I'll tell you that. And so anyways, we did bad for a while at Hurley, and we actually lost money in 2006. My boss was like, no, it's okay, don't even try to make money. Let's use this as a year where I'm like, no, we can't. He's like, no, this is the year. We're gonna write everything off, we're gonna write off the inventory, we're gonna clean everything up, you're gonna lose 16 million. I'm like, what? You're kidding, I'd never lost money before. How could you? I don't know how people do it, but we were pretty good at that year. So anyways, enter 2007. By the way, you guys all know that was the year of the iPhone, right? 2007? Thing that seems like it's been here my whole life. 2007, we got a CEO that used to run Disney consumer products. Have you guys ever seen princesses on lunch pails or pink pajamas or princesses together, which was forbidden before he got there? He broke all the rules there and turned that from a $5 billion to a $30 billion business. And then he came to work at Hurley, our little tiny company. His name's Roger. He's brilliant. He devoted his heart and soul to our company, and he came there in 2007 and said, what's good about this brand, Bob? And I said, oh, man, we have the most killer sunglasses. I'd put them up against anyone. Dita designed them. They're sourced. He's like, well, what's that got to do with surfing? I'm like, oh, sunglasses are cool. I said, we're pretty good at jeans. He's like, how's the trunks? I said, oh, they're not very good, but it doesn't matter. He's like, whoa, time out. Huntington Beach, surfing, like Rabbit, TT, trunk. Like, come on, that's ridiculous. Got to make good trunks. So I was like, okay. Oh, we got to stand for innovation. So we worked hard on innovation, on becoming like, and if any of you out there have companies, I'd suggest one product is a good thing to work on. So we worked hard on board shorts. We didn't work hard on everything else, only board shorts. We were able to create in working with some of the Nike folks in the innovation area and some of our top athletes, we were able to revolutionize board shorts. 2007, we got a patent on the Phantom board short. It had 120% stretch. The next highest was the O'Neill Super Freak at 8%. So a huge difference, very revolutionary, very scary for me to give to people to try because it was that different. People didn't understand it. At the time, the market was full in the malls of really heavy board shorts made out of that blendy soft stuff. What's that stuff, Ryan? Yeah, microfiber. Yeah, but anyways, huge cargo pockets, huge embroideries, as heavy as you could get. I think our board short weighed, I don't know, I'll make up a number. 8 ounces, the competitors weighed 2 pounds. Ridiculous. People at first said, that's not really gonna sell. It's not what people are looking for. We're like, they're looking for it. So anyways, caught on. Everybody started copying us. Everyone said we were going to sue them and put them out of business. We could have sued them and put them out of business. Would have cost us a fortune. We would have never got the money. So instead, we just decided to keep going. At the same time, the market really elevated. Like, we took the average price of board shorts, I think, from like, and again, I'll just make up the numbers because it doesn't really matter. It's the idea. We took the average price of board shorts at retail from like $44 up to like $58 or something crazy like that in a 3-year period. 2008 comes along. Roger and I go to this SEMA summit. All the surf companies, I don't know if all you guys know, they get together and they talk about the state of the industry. And, you know, there's been times when it's been good, but it's mostly filled with inaction and just discussion that doesn't move the needle. So we went to this thing, and in 2008, there was something called the global financial crisis. And we sat there and we heard doom and gloom for like 2 hours. And we heard how every company should just cut its budgets and save money because there's no light at the end of this tunnel. The world is going to hell and you're all in it, so you better save your pennies. And everyone walked out of there going, good speech, good speech. And Roger goes, what'd you think of that? I'm like, that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my whole life. He goes, yeah, we're not doing that, right? I'm like, no. So we go back to the office. He goes, we're going to sponsor the U.S. Open. There hasn't been a pro surfer in Huntington of any reputation for like 6 years. This is ridiculous. The biggest surf venue in the world, the biggest contest, and there's no pro surfers. And I explained to him why it couldn't happen and why it wouldn't work and how no, bad idea, bad. He's like, no, this is bullshit. We're putting our foot on the gas. Now is the best time ever to invest in surfing, to innovate, just to be amazing. So we got a hold of Mick Fanning. We got a hold of Kelly Slater and said, hey guys, you want to participate in something incredible? And we got them to come to town and bring all the pro surfers here. We had gigantic surf. That thing turned into a phenomenon, and our business, because of innovation and investing in surfing, just went nuts. So we already had our recession in 2005, our self-induced recession, just by being stupid. So we learned a lot, and then we were really lucky to meet a smart guy that took us through the really hard years, and every year we made a profit. And every year we kept crushing our competitors. And every year we kept making progress. And it's just been incredible. And so we get to today, you know, and I think about all that stuff, and, you know, I'm very blessed because I get to go surfing at different places around the world. And I just committed to that. When I was 28, I never traveled. And I said, you know what? I am going to go surf all the good waves I've always dreamt about. So I've done a lot of it. And there used to be a lot of uncrowded spots. There's a place in the Mentawais called Burger World. I surfed that for a few years before I ever saw another person because my friend showed it to me. If you go there today, there'll be 200 people out. My point is not woe is me. Surfing is more popular than ever. I'm 100% positive the population of surfing has doubled in the last 5 years, and you can't go anywhere where there's not an auntie, a grandma, uncle, a grandkid, a little baby on a boogie board. You just can't. People love surfing. You guys all know this. When an actor wins the Academy Award, they say stoked. That came from surfing. As dumb as this is, we surf the internet. Surfing is a global phenomenon. It's been on the runways in Paris for the last 8 years or so, and it's only getting bigger. The new pro surfing body, the WSL, they've downloaded 1 million of their app. 1 million people watched those contests. It's no joke, and it's only gaining really rapidly gaining growth on that. I used to joke with PT because he used to work at Surfing Magazine, and I hassled every publisher and every ad salesman since the day I got into this business because they'd come with their circulation notes to try to sell you ads, and I'd say, wow, the circulation's 105,000 again, same as it was 20 years ago. Congratulations, you guys are really opening this up. And it never grew. It never grew. And what made it grow? The internet. How amazing. This couldn't have happened before the year 2000, you know, and it's just an incredible opportunity for those participating in surfing or snowboarding. I was just talking to Signal Snowboards over here. He's mostly online. He's got a direct connection to his consumer. He's got a subscription program. The world is amazing. The fact that we hear news about some of the companies in the surf industry failing, that's got nothing to do with the market. There is no market. The market is what we make. The market is what consumers want. There's no average price of a board short or average price of a cell phone. You think Apple cares about that? Not at all. They're just busy making magic. And when we all make magic, people like it. So surf industry, never been healthier. It doesn't matter who goes bankrupt or who loses money. It's never been healthier. All of us just need to figure out how to do it a little better. There's so many people out there that want a piece of it. It's so exciting, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And I think that's kind of my spiel. And I don't know if you guys want to ask any questions or you just want to get to eating, or I don't know. How's that go, Mark?
Okay, I gotta say, in the 9 years we've done this and the 300 plus speakers, that was probably the most honest, straightforward I've ever heard. So thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. So we're gonna do something unique. I'm always against Q&A because we've had some bad experiences in the past. So what we're gonna do is, if you want to come up and ask Bob a question, please come up here to this mic. And we have 3 basic rules, and this is from 9 years of doing these events. First of all, say your name and your company so you can't hide. Secondly, keep your questions to less than 10 seconds. Don't try to sell your company or brand or your product or anything like that. and be very direct with your question. And that's all we ask. So with that, if anyone wants to come up and ask any questions, please do. And you have to come right here.
Whoa, you have to be courageous to do that. Huh?
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
scary.
exactly.
You can't just sit out there and shout it.
Yeah, can't hide behind your keyboard.
Yikes.
I know.
Yeah.
Really? Anybody?
There might be no questions then, huh?
Oh, we got one right here. All right, here we go, here we go, here we go.
Bring it on.
Thanks for that, Bob. That was great.
Oh, sure.
My name is Brian Martin with a company called Brandworks, my company. My question is this. Brands like the Inertia, which you've heard about, I'm sure,
Yes.
do a great job, in my opinion, of carrying the story forward of what surfing is really about. How do you see your brand doing the same thing from a content standpoint?
Well, there's a couple different ways, and I wouldn't pretend to be an expert on it. You know, there's people at work that know a lot about that. But I think, you know, ever since we started the brand, our goal was to enable. It wasn't to control. So our idea was it's your brand, not ours. Microphone for youth, inclusion, come on in, participate, make it yours. We have 40 interns every summer that come and get paid a lot of money to work there and change the company. So it's not really about us so much as, you know, the world is just going that way, right? It's an open forum. And so hopefully we can provide a catalyst for conversation. That's awesome if we can do that. We can provide a venue. We can provide inspiration and innovation for athletes. And therefore, when the athletes inform us, we can provide it for consumers. Just kind of connecting and enabling, you know, I think is probably the primary contribution we can have. And we don't really feel an obligation to like uphold the sport or anything like that. The new WSL is doing a great job, so we'll see how that goes. But we just want to keep being part of enabling the conversation, introducing people really to experiences and each other, and then just get out of the way. That's huge success for us.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And if there's no further questions, second part question.
Yeah.
What's your take on the Slater 4.17?
Well, per Kelly, he shouldn't have got the score, but I encourage, I said I'd never say it out loud again, but I will. I don't have to stick to my rule. So I told Pat O'Connell's on the board, he works with me, and Kelly has a lot of influence, and Evan Slater does. I told those three guys, like, I understand by that rule, that is a correct score. The world does not understand how the most amazing thing in surfing is not valid. That's just very confusing for us. So forget that, that's spilled milk, but think about the future. You know, think of one of these Brazilian kids flying like that high, flipping their board upside down, coming down on it upside down on their back because they might have made a mistake, or that might be their trick. Maybe they're calling it the upside down coffin, I don't know. They land on their board upside down, they're going down the way backwards, their board upside down pearls, and then it goes like that, and then somehow they miraculously jump up. Is that not a score? I mean, they gotta look at that rule.
Right.
Because people are outraged, but it's correct. There's not one surfer at the beach that thought that should have been a score, including Kelly.
Right.
But that was pretty spectacular, huh? Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, that was the number one question asked online, what your opinion was on Kelly Slater's thing.
Oh, really?
So the other question I got asked was, what is your opinion about surfing possibly being in the Olympics, and then comparing it to how it's done well for snowboarding and other sports?
Yeah. Has it been good for snowboarding?
Well, that's what they want to know. What you
I don't
think.
know, because, well, yeah, surfing in the Olympics, wow. I'm very neutral on that subject. I have a very good friend, Fernando Aguirre, that works super hard to get it in the Olympics. When he does, I'm going to be happy for him, and I'm gonna be like, wait and see. I don't know, because to me, in some ways, the Olympics is amazing in some sports. In others, like when you're sweeping the ice thing, I don't know if that really is super inspiring. But I would think if you're like drinking beers and doing that, it's probably like much fun as you could have. So surfing, I guess a wave pool might be a key to that. And you know, Kelly Slater and many, many others are working on these wave pools. And maybe when those happen, so you get a predictable playing field, that could be exciting. I don't think we ever talk about at work that wouldn't this be a boon for our sales if it got in the Olympics. I don't think that's even semi-related. So I guess as a person, I'd be proud that my sport was in there, but we've never seen it as something, and we do support Fernando trying to do it, but we're not passionate about it. I'm like, wait and see. I don't know.
Well, we have possibly the two youngest participants ever
Yes.
right here. So go right ahead.
Hi,
Hi.
Bob.
How's it
this
going?
is Eddie.
Hi, it's Sally.
We want
Hi.
to know what's the best wave you've ever caught in your
caught.
life.
The best wave I've ever caught in my life. Do you think I should talk about when I surfed the best or when the wave was the best?
When the wave was
When
the best.
wave was the best. Well, good question. All right, but it'll sound like I'm bragging about my surfing, but it was really the wave, okay? I don't surf very good. I'm still trying to learn how to bend my knees. It's really hard, but it's so easy when you do. And if you get that kind of a duck stance like snowboarders, like kind of like some of the Brazilians surf, it's easier too. The best wave I ever caught, I think, was in Newport Beach. And a long time, you know how we've had these hurricanes this summer, making big waves? And last year, Hurricane Marie made giant surf out there. That used to happen a lot back in 1978 through 82, maybe, all the time. And so one time I caught a wave at Tower 17 at Newport Point.
Yeah.
And I accidentally got in the tube. My friend Pat Arturkovich let me have that wave. And I accidentally got in the tube. He still hates me for it, but I was in the spot. And I was in the barrel at 17th Street, and I came out at 19th Street. Yeah. And you know, sometimes when you do something good, you think maybe you're making it up. So I would always tell my wife, I got this wave, I got this wave. Well, this time, I didn't even want to say it because it sounded like a lie. And to this day, I don't know if it really happened, but we would literally we'd go to the grocery store. There was some fame involved with it for about 3 weeks, and people would come up to me like, "Are you the guy that caught that wave?" Like right in front of my wife, and I was like, "Yep, that was me. Yeah, that was my best wave."
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Hi, Bob. My name is Chris.
Hi,
First,
Chris.
I'd like to thank you for your time, and you're
Sure.
a phenomenal storyteller. So I
Thank
think
you.
everybody would agree with that.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask your recommendation for a company if we were going to invest $100, $200, or $500,000 back to the core specialty.
Yeah.
How would you recommend spending that money to really identify back with the core?
Yeah, well, that's a hard one because it depends on so many things. You know what your needs are at the company and what your product is and all that. But if you're looking at core or specialty, and it's hard for me to distinguish between. To me, all people are the same and all customers are the same kind of. So I will make the distinction because we do classify it that at our work too. But I think all consumers want the same thing, whether it's at core or not. Unless you're going to Frog House and you mostly just want to be made fun of, which I love personally. It's a good refresher course in humility and laughing. But I think whatever you do in your way to create a good experience for whomever walks in there, because I don't really think, you know how you hear some retail people, and if there's any in the room, I apologize if I'm about to offend you, but I might. They care about distribution. And they spend a lot of time being angry about it.
Yeah.
And it's not beneficial. It's like a 20-year-old thought, because consumers want, I don't have my phone, but, I asked somebody earlier, how would I find it? I asked Paul Schmidt, whatever it was, how would I find it? He goes, Google it. And you're going to find whatever you want right away, right? So distribution, get over that conversation. It's stupid. What is not stupid is helping whomever sells your product, whether it's a giant store or a little one, create an amazing experience that really reflects your brand. So you're not on a rounders. Like some retailers have an idea that they're going to try that's not going to work. Let's put all the board shorts in one section. Kind of commoditize everything. But you, with your brand, need to create the experience that tells a story of your brand, because there's much evidence, not my theory, just much evidence that that's what a consumer wants. Whether it costs $1 or $1,000, they don't really care, as long as it's an experience that feels valuable. So if you had a little bit of money, I would do that in a very few places, just so you could do the maximum job. If you only did one place, that would be a good thing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
How's it going, Bob? I'm
Good.
Anthony.
What's your name?
Anthony.
Anthony, good to see
Yeah,
you.
I actually met you in the Frog House before.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun there, right?
Yeah, I was on my way to Panama for my birthday.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
How was your trip?
Oh, dude, it was epic. And
Yeah.
thank you for wishing me birthday barrels, man, because I just got barreled the whole time. Like,
Good.
it's
Lucky.
totally rad, man. I needed that for sure.
Yeah.
My question to you is, when your company was in a slump, like if you had to give everyone out here one suggestion on how to get their company out of a slump, what would that suggestion be?
make a product that matters. We didn't make a product that mattered. We made lots of things that were kind of okay, and that's when we really lost focus. So whatever your product is, if it's a rubber band or a t-shirt or whatever, just like make the best one, like be known for it. Unless you're in a business that sells to Walmart or something, you just want volume. But you know, if you want like a really to build your brand, I think it's important, like what's your product? If you say we make everything like we used to, that's not a good answer.
Yeah, I understand.
I think, you know,
yeah, I make pizzas.
that's my experience anyways.
Mine's pizzas and surfboards, so.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Make the best pizza.
Hey, absolutely,
Get
man.
famous
And
for
we
it.
really do. We really do.
Good.
So, all right, thank you.
All right, sure.
Couple more if anyone wants to come up here. We have another question from online, and I kind of want Ryan to come up here if possible for this
All
one, because this
right.
question is for you next.
Younger, better version. Get up here.
Yeah, come up. So the question is, you're one of the very few brands that is out there that has kind of expanded above and beyond just the surf world. I think somebody brought up some great points that you guys do things with, like your recent show with Tribal. You got Stesic now on the payroll and working with you guys. Like, how important is it to be a brand that kind of involves yourself in so many different kind of genres, and including even the streetwear side of things? So
go ahead. I think I kind of understand what that question's getting at, and you know, I'm trying to execute the amazing vision that this guy laid out, which is a super fun thing to do, and you know, what we're trying to do is broaden access to this thing that we know and love, and that's surfing and the lifestyle and the culture around that. And if we can switch new people on to innovation, to board shorts, to surfing, to Hurley, to Phantom, whatever it is we're trying to connect people to, you know, that leads to a thought of like, let's bring more people into this thing. Let's not only just deepen the relationships we already have, but create new ones. So that's kind of what led to some of the stuff. You know, what we're trying to do is just really buckle down on board shorts, and you know, that's something that this industry, that our brand can really stand for and really focus on that product, and you know, partnerships with people that are maybe outside of it, or you know, extend those stories beyond just what the industry, whatever you want to call that, is known for. We're just trying to connect people to something we know and love, and I don't know if there's a lot of like intent to that other than just broadening access to it. So that, I mean, that's it, and you know, it's just having fun, connecting people. Yeah.
And I would say about that too, there is selfish intent in doing that, because always, you know, starting way back with the surfboards or the skateboards or whatever, we always had a very selfish thing about being around amazing humans. So we could, if you're not the smartest guy in the room, that's really a good thing. And so, you know, whether it's Bobby Tribal, the founder of all streetwear basically, or you know, Big Sleeps or whomever, we really want to latch on and be part of really talented people's world, and it just lifts us up more, you know. So we're not like the smartest guy in the room or anything. Yeah.
I'm out of here.
You're out of here? Why? That was a good answer.
Bob, my name is Dan Mulroy. My company is Tech Ambassadors, but I have a non-work question for you.
Yeah.
I want to know about how you take care of yourself, your health, your diet, and maybe if you want to touch on it, what you do with your company to encourage healthy lifestyles.
Yeah, well. I do a lot of hot yoga. No, I like hot yoga. I'm too lazy to go. I was going to say no time, but that's a lie. Yeah, so, you know, I try to eat healthy. I'm trying to, you know, stay as young feeling as I can. And, yeah, health is obviously super important. And it's really interesting to watch this generation right now be so, you know, so many vegans, which is great, and juice and all that stuff. It's awesome. In the workplace, it's pretty important. You know, Nike does a lot of stuff in the workplace. We do a bit of stuff in the workplace. Like we have like, you know, a little room where people do Pilates and yoga and stuff like that. And it's just super important. You know, the idea that Tom, actually, the guy I made a deal with at Nike, I said, man, you don't seem very stressed out. He goes, oh, you should have seen me before. I was a corpo idiot. I'm like, what? Really? He's so fun and mellow. And he goes, yeah, I thought the company couldn't run without me. He goes, I didn't take the time to exercise, and I just became that guy, that business guy, and I didn't like it. And I think in this world, like if you're going to work really hard, I think it's important. But with all our digital devices, we can exercise, we can work, we can do stuff. And like I said, when I was lying to myself about not having time for hot yoga, it's just a lie. You got to take care of yourself, and then you feel better and you're happier. Did I answer your question? I try to eat pretty good, except for the potato chips I had today were so good. Jalapeno. I think they were. They were Vicky's. Yeah. Good, huh? Except sometimes. Yeah.
Hey, Bob. My name is Ryan O'Donnell, and my
Hi,
company is Shakti Juice. I was wondering, on a personal standpoint and a business standpoint, we seem to travel a lot and see the world's pollution in the oceans.
Yeah.
And what's going on with pro surfing and seeing trash and going to all these remote islands. What's your take on how we can prevent that as individuals? And is there anything really on an organization or company level that we can do to help prevent that? Not just donate some money and hope it happens, but really go towards a solution.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, so I heard a saying today, by doing a little, you can do a lot, because it's easy to do nothing, right? And we're all pretty passionate about doing stuff, and sometimes you think the stuff you want to do is so big that you don't really do it. So I think if you do a little bit, I think that's awesome, maybe don't try to do a lot. But there's also some organizations that when you send money to them, 96% of it goes to administering their thing, and 4%, which is a pretty normal number, only goes to the work. So there are other organizations, so if you guys look to organizations that clean up things, maybe look into that, but you can have a lot of bang for the buck. Like this guy, John Rose, we work with, he has something called Waves for Water. He's gotten 10 million people clean drinking water in the last 5 years. He and a soccer player named Neymar have made the Amazon drinkable simply by bringing 1,000 filters there, and 100 people can have clean water for 5 years for very little money. So there are small things to do. I'm not really a knowledgeable environmentalist per se, but I have friends like Brandon Boyd, a musician, Jack Johnson. They're really concerned about those plastics out in the ocean, and they're doing a bunch of stuff. And I think it's awesome if everybody that is making money off that stuff participates. But so I think sometimes when it's so big, you get scared because you can't feel like you can't make an impact. But a little, I think, if everybody's doing a little, that's good.
Is there packaging or distribution that you've started to think about that's more creative that could be profitable and less waste or something?
Yeah, ages ago, a band called Pearl Jam got rid of their CD packaging because it was environmentally hazardous. They were super tree huggers at the time, but that's just normal business now. And so through Nike, if you ever look, if you want to look online, Nike has open source sustainability stuff, and everyone can know it, but it's just incredible what Nike's doing. And we have been a little slower to adopt on all the packaging and stuff, but we're all working on a bunch of crazy stuff. We're working on waterless dyeing, we're working on zero waste manufacturing, including materials. All manufacturing of clothes and shoes right now is 60%. You use the material and 40% waste. So we're going to zero pretty soon. And it's pretty cool stuff to be involved in. It's one of the benefits of being involved with a really neat company, But the packaging thing, I don't know, if you order one of our wetsuits online, you're going to get a pretty ugly package with a lot of plastic in it and some tube, and you're like, what is that thing? I do, anyways. We're working on it. Yeah.
My name is Dylan Morley. I'm with the Newport Beach Lifeguards.
Newport Beach?
Yep. Yes. So my question is, how do you create a fun culture within the workplace?
Yeah. Well, that's... we don't really strive to create a fun culture, but it's just sort of one person at a time, introducing you to another. And we like to invite everybody in that's amazing. We don't oppose unamazing people, but, we're looking for positivity. We're looking for people that show up on time and a strong work ethic and teamwork. And honestly, I'm pretty sure our team is the hardest working team in the business. They work long hours, and there's this cool esprit de corps where they love it because they're doing innovative and amazing things. You know, they'll stay up 22 hours to get a store open or like a new design installed in Frog House or HSS, and they love it. You know, they're running the Hurley Pro down there. We've got 50 people down there every day that are working like 18-hour days, just high-fiving, going, this is the best thing I've ever done. So when you bring in one good person at a time and you encourage, we also have Employee of the Month, right? That's a good one. So Employee of the Month, it's pretty much a popularity contest. I don't vote on it, I don't decide. The whole company votes and people campaign for it. But you're not gonna get people to vote for you if you're not a very nice person or very helpful, right? Or not fun. So somebody wins every month, they get $1,000, then at the end of the year they get $10,000 if they're Employee of the Year. Just little rewards like that, but mostly just bringing in amazing people and seeking to be around them. I mean, we probably have lots of people there, you know. The lifeguards got a lot more fun in the past 15 years too. They used to be like the cops, but now they're all fun guys like you. What happened? Who's in charge of that?
Thanks for your time.
On that note, thank you so much again, Bob. We appreciate it. Thank you. Stay open for, oh geez, we're gonna stay open for a while here, so we encourage everyone to please mingle, meet. Bob will be over here asking questions. Go take a photo on the photo booth there. And thank you again, and hope to see you all next week at our 101 branding event. Thanks again, appreciate it.